Happy 5:55 in the morning. I've been up since 2, and for those past few hours, something I was asking myself in my mind, where I've been working with Hecate, and she definitely came at the time when I was just about to give up spirituality, right? But where I was saying to myself, should I complete this whole series? Because I've been wanting to, but I felt like something has been holding me back to not get the truth out. So this would be part 7. So welcome. So yeah, this is part 7 to the Witchcraft in the Family series. And yeah, so I was up in the wee hours, and I did see 333, which are Hecate's numbers. Well, 3. Yeah, that's her number. But seeing 333, definitely she's reaching out to you. I've been working with her for some time. So yeah. But when I was asking myself that question mindfully, I got a ringing through my right ear. And then, a few seconds later, the left ear started to ring too, gently. Like, yeah, you really need to continue finishing your story. So here I am. The last of what I mentioned in part 6 was how my father had took me against my own free will after I had said no. He asked me if I wanted to come with him to my aunt's place, and I said no. But then he's like, oh yeah, we're going somewhere local. And then the next thing you know, he's driving on his way to the fucking highway and making me go through a fucking panic attack. Yeah. Father of the year, let me tell you. But yeah, after getting through that whole weekend with these people and showing my mother the photos of the altar with her friend, they were just like, yeah, not cool. But one thing I noticed, okay, one of the prayer cards where it's supposed to be the Black Madonna of Mother Mary, right? Where it gave to me Azuli Dantur vibes. So, and back in 21 when I was staying with my aunt, so this is when I went through a really bad situation, but maybe I should save that from when I'm actually doing this series in chronological order. But don't worry, I will get to that. But anyway, that Black Madonna card of Mother Mary, which is from one of the countries, which I'm definitely going to butcher the pronunciation of it, so I'll just put that on the screen. Hopefully I'll put the picture too. But that, which gave me Azuli Dantur vibes. I was like, huh. And they do hide their luas with saints. Just like those who practice Santeria that had to hide their orishas with saints. I mean, you know where I'm going with this here, right? So after the incident, I ended up going to therapy, and I was talking with my therapist and letting them know that this is going to be my last day ever coming to the session, and that I'm planning on moving to Florida. Because it was at that point where it was my last straw dealing with all of that fuck shit. Okay, before that, dealt with the fire. Okay, my father put the house on fire. Prior to that, my mom and we got into a really bad argument. I cussed her the fuck out. Prior to that, there was just other issues going on. Seeing my mother getting spiritually attacked, and yeah, and then some. So I was sick of it. I was so fucking done. So around that time, I had a friend who I known since high school. And around then, she was just like, hey, I will help you out with your plane ticket, because she knew my situation, where at the time I was on public assistance, that pretty much what I'm dealing with right now, which is why I'm just like, what the fuck? Yeah, and as helpful and as generous as she was, she turned out to be a friend who was not shit either. I'll get to that. I don't know if it's going to be in this video or the next one, but y'all get to hear it. Trust. 4:44 on the timer. So yeah. So I got that plane ticket and I got the fuck. But yeah, I don't know if I forgot to mention, this would have been part 5, where we ended up having a fire in the house that we were staying in. But American Red Cross, they had sent us to YMCA to stay at the shelter, and I made sure I took everything. Like, there was nothing my father was going to have of mine. So I remember I had left New York and officially moved back to Florida in October 30th of 2013. So this is when finally, as soon as I land right into Floridian soil, I felt like all of those burdens were just lifted right off of my shoulders. Like, all right, that breath of relief. I felt free away from them. And I felt like I could finally start to enjoy my life again, like when I used to live over there. But that wasn't for too long. All right, so let's fast forward to February of 2014. So around that time, I just got hired at LabCorp. And there was a birthday party that was being thrown. It was one of the high school friends I was not really familiar with, but was invited anyway. And on that day, something told me don't go. And this was at the time I was still a Christian and wasn't into all of that, like, mythical stuff. Well, low-key I was. You know, I was watching Vampire Diaries and, you know, Charmed and all that stuff. But I was strictly Christian, I thought. But something deep within inside of me was telling me, do not go. And I should have listened. Because that shit that I went through that night was fucking wonky. When I tell you it went left, it went left. So we were at the party and they were playing this game called the Circle of Life. Really, it's supposed to be called the Circle of Death. So that's when you have your deck of cards, and whichever that you pick out, they have like a rhyme for it. And you're drinking a lot. And I was drinking straight vodka, but it was flavored. It was a vanilla cream flavored vodka, and I regret every moment, every sip, matter of fact. But yeah, then I ended up seeing that this friend of mine, yeah, the same friend I was talking about earlier that I, you know, went to high school with, yeah, her, where we had stopped being friends multiple times. And I had made a video about, you know, being friends with a covert narcissist, because that's what I ended up finding out later on. But yeah, she was talking mad smack. Okay, I literally walked into hearing her talking shit about me to a group of her friends, and I was just telling her, I'm like, so when were you ever going to tell me to my face about that shit? And she's all defensive and everything. People are starting to like back up for her, talking about that I'm crazy and shit. And because it pissed me off so badly, I punched her in front of those people. Like, I literally jabbed her in her face. And they were just like, whoa, you know, oh, you need some water, chill out. I'm like, no, I'm fucking done. So I just walked out. I literally walked out. And where I was in the middle of nowhere, where, okay, this was Sunrise, Florida. That's where I was at. At the time, I used to live in Pines, Florida. So this is like, once when you hit I-95, you get off of Hollywood and you're going west, it turns into Pines. So anyway, but yeah, I was over there in Sunrise, nearby State Road 7, or somewhere in like 56, but near around those fucking areas. Anyway, I'm gonna have to come with the part 8 now. Yeah, it just gets more crazy, I promise.